Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Sarah. In this episode, I would like to take a break from the series that I've been making on how I made my wedding dress, because even though it's fascinating, it's lovely to work on, it's laborious. And if I don't tell you what I've been making this summer, then I probably won't get to it until October, and then it wouldn't be pertinent at all. And so in this video, I want to show you the projects that I've sewn during this season. It's not over yet, and I will probably squeeze in a few more projects, but I have made a lot, and even I think that I've made everything that I said I would in the last video when I was talking about what I plan to make this summer, which is rare for me. But summer is my favorite season for making and wearing clothes, so I didn't have any problem finding the motivation, which was a little bit surprising because this summer I've been feeling kind of low. I think it's post-wedding blues a little bit, and then also just low energy and not really wanting to be in front of the camera all the time. And so that's why there's been a little bit of a pause in between videos, but I figured this is a hobby and I want to create the best quality as possible and not force myself to do it when I don't feel like it, and just to make videos when I want to. So that's the sort of rhythm that I'm trying to get into now. I'm actually recording this a few days after the first anniversary of this channel, and it's been such a learning curve figuring out framing, editing, sound, lighting. And it's been so much fun to get to know and to explore this new creative outlet and show my makes and my sewing in this different format, which is so much more expansive than what I had been previously working with, for example, Instagram. And the community here has been very supportive and encouraging so far, and so I was very scared of that at first, online bullying and all that, but so far it's been okay. And I have so many ideas, and I'm excited to keep going and keep presenting these ideas and these creative projects with you. And I'm very happy that you're here with me. Thank you for anyone who sent any encouraging or kind messages over this past year. The first project I'd like to present is actually 3 makes that I made for a couple of friends who had their very first baby. So I made a blankie out of double gauze fabrics. I picked 2 that were complementary, and I just cut out a rectangle that was, I think, about 65 by 75 centimeters. I'm not sure exactly, but it was a rectangle about that size. And I sandwiched between the 2 kinds of double gauze fabrics a bit of wadding, about light to medium weight wadding, and then just sewed them together. And then I added diagonal quilting, or a quilting stitch diagonally, about 5 centimeters apart on the blankie. And this fabric was kind of difficult to work with in the whole quilting part, just because double gauze is very squishy already, and it does kind of relax underneath the tension of the stitches, and then also the wadding was squishy, and so it did kind of squish outwards from the stitching. And so the edges of the rectangle weren't exactly neat, but it just means that it looks a little bit handmade, and if that reminds my friends whenever they look at it that it's handmade by me because I offered it out of love, then that's fine with me. And then the second thing that I made was a bunny lovey, and this is from a pattern tutorial from Petite Perle on Instagram. It's in her stories and it's in French, so it's a bit hard to follow if you don't speak French, but it is such a lovely little gift to give. I've already made one back last September for another friend's baby who was born, and it had some success, and so I wanted to make it again out of the same double gauze fabrics. And the hardest part was embroidering the face, because I don't do very much embroidery. I used to do cross stitching a little bit, I dabbled. And so I had some extra embroidery thread available, and I just kind of winged it, but I think it turned out okay. And then out of these scrap fabrics of that double gauze fabric, I created bibs. And I found a free pattern and tutorial on projectnursery.com. I think it's a Grey House Hardware pattern that they created for the website, and it was relatively easy to make. I made 4, and I installed sew-on snaps. I've tried snaps before, like the plastic ones that you press on, but they never hold. I've tried everything, interfacing behind, having different people squeeze it with me, like my husband or someone with a firmer grip than I do, or like squishing it between something hard just to really get it on there, and they all always seem to disintegrate and fall off, and that's dangerous. So I figured a sew-on snap, I can wax the thread to make it strong and double thread it and put lots and lots of stitches in, and I've never had a sew-on snap come off before. I use it in my garments all the time, and so even if it does start to come off, I'm thinking it'll be visible before the button actually falls off, and so it'll be safer for the baby, I think, that way. These were really easy to make, and they are reversible, so they can turn it to one side or another based on what the baby's wearing that day. And I hope it's helpful. I know that when my cousin had her kids, she mentioned that drool bibs were really helpful to keep their clothes clean because babies drool a lot, and I thought, I should make some. Those look easy. So they were indeed easy and a great gift. Next, I made a Bella Loves Patterns Rosie shirt, and it is this. I made it out of this white linen from Tissus de Rêve, and I usually don't always buy fabric from them just because a lot of it's lower quality or not very good fabric, but it's very cheap, and sometimes I do find good fabrics there, so I do recommend taking a look every once in a while. But this linen, actually, I wanted to make a dress out of it, but it turned out to be way too transparent for a dress, and it's a very crisp fabric, and so I wanted to make something a little bit more structure. And so even though this pattern recommends flowy, sort of very feminine fabrics like silk or viscose, I decided to make it in this linen because I figured it has more of an oversized shape to it with these drop shoulders, and I love a collar that kind of stands away from the neck, and I love emphasizing the neck and collarbones. I find it very flattering on everyone and very elegant, and I love wearing it that way too. And so yeah, I made this. I love Bella Loves Patterns. I can't say that enough. I say that in every single video that I mention her in. The instructions are immaculate. They are very detailed, and you get professional sewing finishes on the outside and the inside of the garment. The construction was interesting and something I'd never seen before, so I had to concentrate on this one. It wasn't that easy, especially this point between the upper and lower collar points. And at first I was a little bit worried that the interfacing that I used was too thick or stiff for this fabric because I didn't have any more viscose interfacing left. I had cotton interfacing left, and in the end, I think that it's perfect for this project. I made a straight size 6, and I should have sized up at the hips because it is a little bit tight around the hips, but I will always probably wear it tucked in just because it is very boxy and formal and a little bit less feminine than what I usually wear. And so tucked in, it emphasizes the waist, and then open at the collar or at the front where it buttons up. If I leave a few buttons open, it kind of softens the silhouette a little bit. So I will likely always wear it like that. So it's okay that it's a little bit tight around the hips. Nobody's gonna see that. So even though this pattern was a little bit more difficult and I had to concentrate and unpick sometimes, I really liked the way it turned out. And I think that even though I don't wear this as much as I thought I would, I made it about 2 months ago now, it's definitely something a little bit more versatile in my wardrobe that I might reach for later, depending on my mood. And I'm very happy to have this as an option in my wardrobe now. Next, I made the True Bias Laura dress. And this is something I saw, it just came out a little while ago, and I wanted to make it immediately, but I didn't know what fabric I wanted to make it in, and ultimately I decided to make it out of this teal blue-green fabric that I found in Nippori Fabric Town in Tokyo. And you can find everything that I bought and my little trip to Nippori Fabric Town in the vlog that I created that I'll link here. This fabric was so strange to work with because it doesn't rip, so finding the grain line, for example, was hard because I couldn't take out even one of the threads to follow it. It just breaks. And it's got this sort of slubby texture to it. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but yeah, it was very, very difficult to work with. It has such friction that it kind of sticks to itself. And so getting these straps or creating these rouleau straps for these button loops was really, really hard. It just stuck to itself, it broke all the time, and I rubbed my fingers raw trying to coax it across my rouleau turner. So that was a bit of a nightmare, but I think that the finishing effect is quite lovely, and that even though this fabric is a little bit more dense, it creates lovely gathers here, and it hangs really nicely. I modified this pattern quite a lot because True Bias patterns are too big in the bust for me. Even the smallest size is too big for me. I am a hypothetical one size down from their smallest size based on the difference between the sizes, and so whenever I want to make one of their patterns, I have to manually grade down from the waist up the smallest size of the pattern, and so that's time consuming and not something I always want to do. So it depends on the project, but this one I really wanted to make, so I was motivated. And then I also graded from that hypothetical size down to a size 4 at the hips because my hips are larger than my waist. and my top half. And then I also shortened the length 3 inches because it is a bit of a longer midi length. It goes further than mid-calf, and I wanted it to be mid-calf because I find that more flattering on me. I accidentally actually cut the back piece 5 inches instead of 3, and I ended up having to insert a band of fabric about 2 inches long to cover that up and make it even across the hem. And so that's definitely visible, but I forget it all the time. It's behind me, so it's okay, right? I love the color and drape of this fabric. I actually made this for my birthday, which was mid-July, and I was able to wear it out for drinks and dinner with my husband, and it was lovely. It does drape and flow around the legs really nicely when you wear it, and I felt very pretty. And I think that this fabric is definitely in a color that flatters me. And then I think I originally said that I was going to make the Allie Olsen Highland dress out of this fabric, but in the end I decided to make the True Bias Laura dress because I wanted something that looked good head to toe on me, like in a color that would complement me near my face as well. And I wanted to make this out of a solid color. So this fabric definitely worked for that, and I'm really happy that I did that, especially with these really pretty little buttons that I found. They're kind of like pearly buttons. I think that it works really, really well, and I'm really pleased with this one. Next, I made the Sew Over It Una dress in this cross-hatched cotton in white and black that was gifted to me with no obligation to make anything or post anything from Mystère Tissu, which I will link below. I think there's still some fabric left, and I'll link that as well if it's still available. But the lines are squiggly, it's not your screen. That kind of confused my husband a little bit, for example. And I've made this dress before, and I applied the same modification as I did to the last version that I made last summer. I lowered the waistband 3 centimeters so that it would correspond with my natural waist. And then I also cut the facing pieces out of a peachy beige viscose that matches, or somewhat matches, my skin, so that it would be invisible underneath the white, because this fabric is kind of transparent. And I think that this dress looks really lovely in this fabric. I think that it's the best thing I could have done with this fabric for my wardrobe, and it turned out much better than I thought it would. I must admit it is a little bit difficult to wear because it's a little bit tight, and this fabric is non-stretch, and so getting it on and off is a bit tricky, just because my waist is much smaller than my shoulders, and so getting the waistband over my shoulders is a bit hard. And then it does kind of restrict my movements around my legs because when I sit down, for example, it's kind of tight around the hips. But I think it looks lovely. I think it makes a very lovely, clean and neat silhouette, and it's definitely my style, and especially in this white and black fabric, I think it looks really classy. And so that's fine with me that it's sometimes difficult to wear, but it's definitely when I'm in the mood to wear something that requires a little bit more attention to what I wear underneath it or how I place my body when I'm sitting and things like that. But yeah, I think I'm very happy with the way this dress turned out, and it looks good. Next, I made this dress that I'm wearing now, which is the McCall's M7947. I just had to check because the numbers mean nothing to me. It's in this periwinkle blue linen fabric. It's 100% linen, and it's from the Minerva linen range. So Minerva is a fabric shop in the UK, and they gifted me this fabric in exchange for an article on what I made for their website, which I will link below if you'd like to check it out at your leisure. And this dress was actually inspired by Gina Sews, who is a creator on YouTube and Instagram. I will link her below as well. She created a version in sort of a cream off-white color linen, I think it was, and she posted that a little while ago, and I had never imagined this dress to look like that just because the cover art is so different. There was no waist tie included in the pattern, and she just created it on her own, and it changes everything. It changes the silhouette, it changes the way it looks and bunches up, and it just looks so much better, I think, that way, and I hadn't imagined it that way from the cover art. And so thank you very much to Gina for inspiring this project. I decided to make version D, which is sleeveless and below the knee length, and this pattern features elastic casings and elastic along the neckline of the bodice and the back bodice to create this sort of ruffle effect when the elastic is contracted. And then there's a ruffle at the hem, which I thought was maybe a little bit too girly for me, but it definitely corresponds to my mood some days, and so I do wear it. And then these big buttons. I did shorten the skirt about 18 centimeters or 7 inches because when I first tried it on, it was way too long. It looked like a nightgown and I wanted it to be more of a day dress length. And I did create the waistband, and I modified the pattern and graded it from a size S because it's only in sizes S, M, L, for example. It's not numbered. I graded from a size S at the bust to a size M at the hips, and it's very comfortable. I've worn it a few times now. I brought it on vacation with me, and it was the perfect beach cover-up to wear to the beach and on summer vacation. And it is a little bit itchy because it's 100% linen, but I know that linen softens with wear and washing, and so I'm sure that it'll get softer and even more agreeable to wear later. But yeah, I'm very happy with this project, and I hadn't sewn with Big Four patterns in a long time, and the instructions were a little bit less detailed than indie patterns, for example, but it was fine. As long as you know how to do finishings on your own, then it's fine. Next, I made this Helen's Closet Donovan skirt with my favorite mermaid fabric that I presented in my summer plans video. I agonized over what to do with this fabric because it's just so beautiful. I love the colors, it's soft, it's floaty, and I think that in my summer plans video I originally planned to make a Chubai's Laura dress with this one, but in the end I wanted to make that in a solid color fabric, and I wanted to make something, so I originally thought maybe I'd make something more elegant and beautiful, but this fabric is very flowy and it doesn't have very much structure, so I thought for a dress it wouldn't be structured enough, or I didn't have enough. I only had 1.5 meters to create sort of a loose flowy dress, and I wanted to make something that I would wear all the time, and the Donovan skirt is something I wear almost every day in the summertime. It's so easy to wear with the wide waistband elastic and the big roomy pockets. It's just so practical, and then it's got the slightly contemporary side slits along the side of the leg and a longer length. It's just so agreeable to wear that I decided to make that instead, even though I spent a long time putting off cutting out this fabric because I wanted to be absolutely sure that I would definitely wear it. I'm very happy that I made the Donovan skirt because I do in fact wear it all the time. It's constantly in rotation, and I just love seeing it either on me or in the laundry hanging up to dry. It's just, yeah, I love this fabric so much, and this is probably one of my favorite projects, or the star of this summer's makes this year. And then the last project that I made that I wanted to show you today is a second Donovan skirt that I made out of this black and white polka dot fabric. I previously made a Seamwork Pauline skirt in this fabric, and I made a whole sewing vlog on that, so I will link that here as well if you want to check that out. I decided, so that skirt is a little bit tighter, like closer fitting, and it doesn't have an elasticated waist at all, and so, or pockets, and so I don't actually reach for it as often just because it is more of a business formal sort of skirt, and I have a lot of work appropriate clothes, so I don't actually reach for it that often. I thought that was kind of a shame, but I did have enough to make another skirt, and I decided to make a more casual skirt in the Donovan skirt with the wide waistband elastic and pockets, and I think it works really well in this skirt. It is, like with the Pauline skirt, unwrinkleable, so perfect for traveling. It is a viscose, but for some reason the way it's woven makes it so that it doesn't hold a wrinkle at all. Maybe it's mixed with polyester, I'm not sure. It's kind of a mystery fabric, but it is somewhat viscose. But this fabric is so hard to work with. Like with the Pauline skirt, it bunches up at the side seams, and especially these side seams, there was so much tension along this line, and I couldn't figure out how to relieve that tension. I tried fiddling with the tension on my machine, changing the needle, changing the thread, changing the stitch, so using a lightning stitch, so a slight zigzag like you do sewing on the bias with silk fabric to kind of relax it a little bit, but nothing worked, and I ended up just having to clip into the seam allowances along this line to relieve that tension. And it still sort of drags, like pulls upward a little bit along this seam, if you can see that. It's subtle now, but yeah, this fabric was definitely very hard to work with, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think that it's going to be very practical, and I've been wearing it a lot this summer already as well. And I think it's lovely that I got another skirt out of this fabric that I found at Rainbow Fabrics during my trip to London for work this spring. And yeah, and this is definitely a format that I can wear on the weekends, just casually all the time, and it's definitely going to be a lot more worn in my wardrobe. So there you have it. Those are all of the summer clothes that I made this season. I will probably sneak in a little bit more before the cool weather sort of autumn season starts, just because I love making summer clothes. But I'm really happy with what I've made so far. It's a good mix between trying out new styles, staying with styles that I know I like, and then a mix of more formal versus more casual wear. And they're definitely clothes that I've already been reaching for and wearing a lot this summer, and so I know that they were good decisions to make. I will link any fabric shops, fabrics, or patterns that I've mentioned in the description below, so don't hesitate to check those out if you've been inspired. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that the end of the summer is going well for you too, and I will see you again here soon with another video. Take care, and bye-bye.